So the draft comes. We go to Radio City Music Hall, and I think there's probably about 10 players they invite into the green room, and every player has a table similar to this, and the player has his name on the table, and there's a dedicated phone on every table. That's the phone. When that phone rings, you're drafted. And so Paul Tagliabue walks to the microphone and says, "Welcome to the 2005 draft. The San Francisco 49ers are on the clock." Early that morning, the agent tried to negotiate between the two teams. He talked to the 49ers before the draft and said, "He's the best player in the draft. You don't want to miss him. He's going to Canton, Ohio. You want to win your team." Good job. Told the Miami Dolphins, "You know what? It might not last until you might want to talk to them and trade up. Make sure you get to one." So the Miami Dolphins said, "We're going to trade and get up to one." So, there are a couple other teams that actually called to inquire about coming, which was the Minnesota Vikings and the San Diego Chargers. They were picking like 9th and 10th, somewhere down the line. But they knew Braylon wouldn't last that long, or so they felt. So each team gets 20 minutes. It's down to 2 minutes. Okay, what's going on? Paul Tagliabue walks to the microphone. With the first pick of the 2005 draft, the San Francisco 49ers pick Alex Smith, quarterback, Utah. Cameras are in the green room now, and so we're acting like we're happy for Alex. "Hey, Alex, hey, good job." Sure. The Miami Dolphins are on the clock, so we really start, cameras on us now. It's our time. 20 minutes go by. It's 20 minutes. We're down to 2 minutes again. I'm like, okay. What we thought is that either Minnesota or San Diego traded up to number 2. That's what it took so long to go. And so one of those guys are trading up for Braylon. We're sitting here, Ronnie Brown's sitting there, Ronnie Brown's phone goes off. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God. Maybe somebody's got the wrong number. I don't know who's got that number. Who's got that number? And he picks up the phone, and he's smiling, yes, and they're starting to hug. And I'm like, oh my God. He told Cleveland, who was picking next, "I'm not coming to see you." And I'm like, number 4 pick was the Chicago Bears. They had just signed Muhsin Muhammad during the offseason, so they had filled their wide receiver spot. And the next 3 teams did not have a need for wide receiver. And so this boy from the east side of Detroit, math went to work. You go from the second pick down to the 7th pick, you lose how many millions of dollars? Oh my God. Oh God. Ronnie Brown goes out there. Cleveland Browns on the clock. Oh God. I sit down, and my wife starts to rub me on my back. I'm like, what do we do? All the time, all those years out in the yard throwing the ball, what did we do? God, don't help us. And so there's 2 minutes left on the clock. The phone doesn't ring, because I don't think it's going to ring, because we blew off Cleveland. Braylon's been on his cell phone all the time, because his friends are calling him like, why are your friends calling you now? They know you're about to get drafted. And Braylon's on there, and Braylon's on the cell phone saying he's doing 3. And I'm the last guy at the table to find out 3. What? 3 what? I'm going to 3. He said, "Thanks, coach." I'm like, oh, jeez, thank you, Jesus. I'm not a real religious guy, but that day I really was. Because there's no feeling in the world like I can describe when Paul Tagliabue walked to the microphone with the 3rd pick of the 2005 draft. The Cleveland Browns select Braylon Edwards, wide receiver, University of Michigan. Every parent should be able to feel what I felt at that time. Every parent. It was not fair for me to be that happy. I didn't deserve that. I honestly mean that. But you can feel that way if you not already have. In the book, Outliners by Malcolm Gladwell, the 10,000 hour rule. If your child spends 10,000 hours doing something that they love to do all the time, they will become an expert. An example. After Braylon's sophomore year, his spring game played, the blue and white game, he plays. I drive back home to Detroit. 3 hours later, he knocked on my door and said, Dad, can we play catch? He had just played the spring game. I didn't tell him to come home and do that. When we used to tailgate in Ann Arbor, we had the nice spread and everything, and we out there eating after the game. Braylon is in the street with his Michigan jacket, his coat and tie, playing catch with everybody. After the game, he put the work in. Malcolm Gladwell talks about Mozart, Bill Gates, Tiger Woods, and all the people who are at the perennial of their profession, of how they got there. And the best way for them to get there is for us as parents to make sure we're there for them. We have to be. We are not that important to bring somebody else into the world. We can't be if we want our kids to succeed, if we want our society to succeed. It's up to us to make sure they get the opportunity to be the best that they can be. Go read the book, and they ought to pay me for this, The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. Talks about how in different parts of the world, you can find people specializing in certain areas, in certain professions, and they become great because they practice it the right way all the time. And you can even become an expert after the age of 40. Whoa. Because we're taught, you know what, between 40 and 50s is sometimes my best earning years. You know, we're still young and vibrant, still climbing a little bit. But for some reason, we are taught to slow down, and we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Because when you got something to do all the time, you feel good about yourself. You feel vibrant, and you have wisdom to share with other people. We have to make sure that we continue to pass it on. That's what we do in Ann Arbor. That's what we do in Dearborn. We got to pass it on. We're the leaders in best for a reason, because there's nobody better. We're still there. We might be a little wounded, athletically speaking, but we'll be okay. But understand something, when we put the time in to our young people, I don't care what the down economy may tell you, that's an investment you can always trust, and you'll always get an ROI. Go Blue. Thank you.